Today, we're gonna show you how to make pull off the bone lamb shanks. Let's show you how we made it. To make our lamb shanks on the smoker, the first thing we need to do is pat them dry. We've got that moisture sitting over the top, so just grab some paper towel and give them all a bit of a dab. Also worth trying to get shanks that are roughly all equal size so you get a more even cook. I've got one shank here that must have come from a monster lamb and the rest are all pretty equal, so we'll call this one Freddy. This could be Fred Flintstone. After we do a bit of a pat dry, we can start talking about the rub. Today, we're going to be making our own salt rub because all the rubs that I have and I normally use are geared towards ribs, briskets, steaks, etc. So today, we want ours to be quite thyme and rosemary heavy because thyme, rosemary, and lamb are just a match made in heaven. So today, we are going to be running with 1 tablespoon of thyme, finely chopped, 1 tablespoon of finely chopped rosemary, 1 tablespoon of crushed kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 3 teaspoons of smoked paprika, and half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. That's going to give us a little bit of kick, a little bit of heat. All of this, though, is adjustable. So if you want to go more herb heavy, then amp up the thyme or the rosemary. If you want more saltiness on the crust of your rub, amp up the salt. And then obviously if you want to go more garlic focused or more paprika, more spice, then ramp up that cayenne pepper. But all of this is, build your own flavor. I think this is a fairly balanced rub for making smoked lamb. Now, let's mix all this together and get to rubbing. Next up, binding agent. I'm gonna be using American mustard. For this one, the binding agent is basically just to give you sort of a glue to hold the rub to the meat itself. American mustard is super common to use when you're making things like brisket or ribs. Often people will use olive oil if mustard's not your thing. I like the flavor that mustard brings. I think it'll give us a little bit of extra something on our final product. So just go ahead and squeeze a bit onto each of your lambs. That was probably too much, to be honest. And then we just want to coat the whole shank so that we've got that little bit of glue to help keep all of our rub on the meat itself. Rinse and repeat for all of the lambs, and then we are good to start rubbing our meat. Olive oil is absolutely okay to use for this sort of thing, but mustard brings that little bit of extra kick to it, which I think is nice at the end. You don't want the meat to taste boring. You want it to have a bit of something. That's my own personal preference. Chili oil would have been a great option as well. A little bit of chili oil coating this, marinating into the meat would be awesome. All right, that is our mustard layer done. Now it's time to add our rub. And notice how the mustard is really gluing all that rub together. Things like rosemary and thyme traditionally don't stick very well to meat, so adding that rub component really helps to hold everything onto the surface there. So we can build a nice crust and have those flavors actually marinate through the lamb. Oh, yeah. All right, that should be good. Meat is rubbed. Now it's time to probe our meat. Nothing sexual here, it's all about temperature. Let me get mine first. This here is an Inkbird. We are planning on doing a full video kind of reviewing this particular model and talking about Inkbirds broadly speaking. That will show up in a card up there whenever we eventually do that video. But all you need to know right now is that you do need a temperature probe in your meat. It's the only way to definitively know when it's been properly cooked. A, for safety, but B, so that you have that fall off the bone lamb shank. These ones here are wireless, so each of these probes will get stuck into our meat. This will feed that data feed over to my phone so I can set up alarms, timers, etc. and it will notify me when we've hit certain temperature points. So you can't just use any old cheap thermometer for this job. I happen to have a bit of a fancy toy to play with, so may as well use it. I'm gonna take the probe and stick it straight through the center of the meat here. Let's go straight on through there. Job done. Rinse and repeat for each of them. And then the goal here is we want this meat to be finished between 91 degrees Celsius to 93 degrees Celsius. That's our target temperature internally for today. Now, let's prep our barbecue. Today, we're gonna be using a Texas offset smoker. So this here is double barreled. Up here is where we're going to be having the cook going on. Down here is our firebox. So in our firebox, we have a big chunk of iron bark that's going to slowly burn away and give us a pretty steady temperature. And then we've got some lumpwood charcoal here acting as a bit of fuel to keep that big piece of wood burning. The key thing to managing one of these, and if you want to see the full video on us explaining how to work one of these, there's a link right up there to when we made beef brisket. But the whole idea behind this is airflow management. So on the right over here, we have a vent that you can open and close to increase airflow or reduce airflow. Similarly, up here, we've got a vent at the top of the chimney. The whole idea behind this is the more air you have, the more combustion, the more heat. The less air, less combustion, less heat. So what we're going for here is maintaining a temperature somewhere between 120 to 130 degrees Celsius max. That's that in freedom units for the Americans in the audience. But as long as you're holding it somewhere steady in that range, we should be looking at about a 4 to 5 hour cook, more or less. Now, let's get our lamb on the smoker. Our temperature is now holding steady at 120 C, so we're ready to go ahead and throw our meat on. I'm gonna go the bone side towards the flames for at least the first half of this cook, and then I'll probably rotate them around as we get closer towards the second half to get an even mix of smoke and temperature across the whole set of lamb here. Now it's time to close her up, and the one big word of advice I have to you guys if you're new to smoking, resist the temptation to keep opening and closing the smoker whenever you want to check the meat. Every time you do that, you're going to lose temperature. It'll take time to reset it, rebuild it, and it makes an uneven cook. So from here on out, you should not be opening this up unless it comes time to spritz your meat. But we'll talk about that when it's time for us to do it for the first time. That's going to be in about an hour from now, so we'll see you then. To spritz, you could use water, you could use vinegar, I've seen some people use. My personal preference is just to go stock. So in this case, I'm going to be using just a little bit of beef stock in a little squirt bottle, open it up so it does some misting, and then you just want to give them a generous little spritz over the top of all of your meat. This is going to help to keep our meat hydrated, keep it juicy, stop it from drying out so much. And I like to use stock so we can add a little bit of flavor whilst we're doing so. Do that once every hour or so, once every 2 hours if you're so inclined, and then you'll have nice, juicy, tender meat by the end of it. Now, I suppose we'll see you in a couple of hours. Time to go and watch this ad.
Hey guys, this is cameraman Odin. If you'd like to brew your very first beer, click the link up there. Otherwise, continue watching the video, like and subscribe as well. Cheers.
We're now about 2 to 3 hours into our cook, so it's time to just rotate our lamb over a little bit, and then we can, spritz and work on the other side so we get an even cook in all directions. Oh, these are looking good. These are looking really good. Another little spritz over the top. Very nice. Beautiful. And now we let the smoke do its thing. Come back in another hour.
What's the temperature?
91. It is time to taste our meat. Let's open her up. That is looking full off the bone delicious. Let's take our shanks off. Full disclosure, we did take a shank off a little bit earlier because the smallest one did cook faster than the rest. Now, let's take it inside and show you how to eat it. Now, the reason you want to hit 91 degrees Celsius, that in freedom units, is because that's where you're going to start breaking down collagen, which is that connective tissue that holds muscle together and makes it tough. Once you hit that 90 degrees plus, that collagen starts to break down, making the meat become more pull apart, fall apart, but it also breaks down into juices. So you make your meat juicier and more fall off the bone at the same time. As you saw from the cold opener, our meat comes straight off the bone. But how should you best enjoy succulent, delicious, fall off the bone lamb shank? Well, in my opinion, it has to be on a Slovakia style Greek lamb wrap. So go ahead, whack on some tzatziki, get your Slovakia wrap, throw in your smoked lamb. By the way, this lamb was smoked for about 6.5 hours, all things said and done. Don't cook by time, always cook by temperature. Throw in a bit of red onion, bit of tomato, and you're looking at one of the most delicious wraps you're ever gonna eat. Sprinkle on some Parmesan. I know it's not conventional, but why not add a bit of sharp cheese to it while you're there? And then enjoy. Oh my God, that is so good. That is good. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Thank you to our Patreons who support our channel day in, day out. If you want to think about becoming a Patreon and getting more involved with what videos we should make next, please check the link down below. Now, it's never fun hearing someone eat and talk, so I'm going to say thank you. We'll catch you all next time, and see you later. I'm having dinner.